Chapter 5. Killing each separate louse is a tedious business when a man has hundreds. The little beasts are hard, and the everlasting cracking with one's fingernails very soon becomes wearisome. So Theoden has rigged up the lid of a boot polish tin with a piece of wire over the lighted stump of a candle. The lice are simply thrown into this little pan, crack, and they're done for. We sit around with our shirts on our knees, our bodies naked to the warm air, and our hands at work. Hai has a particularly fine brand of louse. They have a red cross on their heads. He suggests that he brought them back from the hospital at Torhut, where they attended personally on a Surgeon General. He says he means to use the fat that slowly accumulates in the tin lid for polishing his boots, and roars with laughter for half an hour at his own joke. But he gets little response today. We are too preoccupied with another affair. The rumor has materialized. Himmelstas has come. He appeared yesterday. We've already heard the well-known voice. He seems to have overdone it with a couple of young recruits on the plowed field at home, and unknown to him, the son of the local magistrate was watching. That cooked his goose. You'll get some surprises here. Theoden has been meditating for hours on what to say to him. Hai gazes thoughtfully at his great paws and winks at me. The thrashing was the high water mark of his life. He tells me he often dreams of it. Kropp and Muller are amusing themselves. From somewhere or another, probably the Pioneer Cookhouse, Kropp has bagged for himself a mess tin full of beans. Muller squints hungrily into it, but checks himself and says, Albert, what would you do if it were suddenly peacetime again? There won't be any peacetime, Albert says bluntly. Well, but if, persists Muller, what would you do? Clear out of this, growls Kropp. Of course, then what? Get drunk, says Albert. Don't talk rot. I mean, seriously. So do I, says Kropp. What else should a man do? Cat becomes interested. He levies tribute on Kropp's tin of beans, swallows some, then considers for a while and says, You might get drunk first, of course, but then you take the next train for home and mother. Peacetime, man, Albert. He fumbles on his oilcloth pocketbook for a photograph and suddenly shows it all round. My old woman. Then he puts it back and swears, Damned lousy war. It's all very well for you to talk, I tell him. You've wife and children. True, he nods, and I've yet to see to it that they've got something to eat. We laugh. They won't lack for that, Cat. You'll scrounge it from somewhere. Muller is insatiable and gives himself no peace. He wakes Hai Westus out of his dream. Hai, what would you do if it was peacetime? Give you a kick in the backside for the way you talk, I say. How did it come about exactly? How does the cow shit come on the roof? Retorts Muller laconically and turns to Hai Westus again. It's too much for Hai. He shakes his freckled head. You mean when the war's over? Exactly, you've said it. Well, there'd be women, of course, huh? Hai licks his lips. Sure. By Jove, yes, says Hai, his face melting. Then I'd grab some good buxom dame, some real kitchen wench, and with plenty to get hold of, and jump straight into bed. Just you think, boys, a real feather bed with a spring mattress. I wouldn't put trousers on again for a week. Everyone is silent. The picture is too good. Our flesh creeps. At last, Muller pulls himself together and says, And then what? A pause. Then Hai explains rather awkwardly, If I were a non-com, I'd stay with the Prussians and serve out my time. Hai, you've got a screw loose, surely, I say. Have you ever dug peat? He retorts good-naturedly. You try it. Then he pulls a spoon out of the top of his boot and reaches over to Kropp's mess tin. Can't be worse than digging trenches, I ventured. Hai chews and grins. It lasts longer, though. And there's no getting out of it either. But, man, surely it's better at home. Some ways, says he, with mouth open, sinks into a daydream. You can see what he is thinking. There's the mean little hut on the moors, the hard work on the heath from morning till night in the heat, the miserable pay, the dirty laborer's clothes. In the army in peacetime, you've nothing to trouble about. He goes on, your food's found every day, or else you kick up a row. You've a bed, you every week clean underwear like a perfect gent, and you do your non-coms. Non-coms duty, you have a good suit of clothes. In the evening, you're a free man and go off to the pub. Hai is extraordinarily set on his idea. He's in love with it. And when your 12 years are up, you get your pension and become a village bobby, and you can walk about the whole day. He's already sweating on it. And just you think how you'd be treated. Here's a dram, here's a pint. Everyone wants to be well with a bobby. You'll never be a non-com though, Hai, interrupts Cat. Hai looks at him sadly and is silent. His thoughts still linger over the clear evenings in autumn, the Sundays in the heather, the village bells, the afternoon and evenings with the servant girls, the fried bacon and barley, the carefree hours in the alehouse. He can't part with all these dreams so abruptly. He merely growls, "What a silly question you do ask." He pulls his shirt over his head and buttons up his tunic. "What would you do, Tjaden?" asks Krop. Tjaden thinks of one thing only. See to it that Himmelstas doesn't get past me. Apparently, he would like most to have him in a cage and sail into him with a club every morning. To Krop, he says warmly, "If I were in your place, I'd see to it that I became a lieutenant. Then you could grind him till the water in his backside boils." "And you, Dietering?" asked Muller like an inquisitor. He's a born schoolmaster with all his questions. Dietering is sparing with his words, but on this subject he speaks. He looks to the sky and says only one sentence: "I'll go straight on with the harvesting." Then he gets up and walks off. He's worried. His wife has to look after the farm. They've already taken away two more of his horses. Every day he reads the papers that come to see whether it is raining in his little corner of Oldenburg. They haven't brought in the hay yet. At this moment, Himmelstas appears. He comes straight up to our group. Tjaden's face turns red. He stretches his length on the grass and shuts his eyes in excitement. Himmelstas is a little hesitant. His gait becomes slower. Then he marches up to us. No one makes any motion to stand up. Krop looks at him with interest. He continues to stand in front of us and wait. As no one says anything, he launches a, "Well?" A couple of seconds go by. Apparently, Himmelstas doesn't quite know what to do. He would like most to set us all on the run again. But he seems to have learned already that the front line isn't a parade ground. He tries it on, though, by addressing himself to one instead of to all of us, hopes to get some response. Krop is nearest, so he favors him. "Well, you're here too." But Albert's no friend of his. "A bit longer than you, I fancy," he retorts. The red mustache twitches. "You don't recognize me anymore. What?" Tjaden now opens his eyes. "I do, though." Himmelstas turns to him. "Tjaden, isn't it?" Tjaden lifts his head. "And do you know what you are?" Himmelstas is disconcerted. Since when have we become so familiar? I don't remember that we ever slept in the gutter together." He has no idea what to make of the situation. He hadn't expected this open hostility, but he is on his guard. He has already had some rot dinned into him about getting shot in the back. The question about the gutter makes Tjaden so mad that it becomes almost witty. "No, you slept there by yourself." Himmelstas begins to boil, but Tjaden gets in ahead of him. He must bring off his insult. "Wouldn't you like to know what you are? A dirty hound. That's what you are. I've been waiting to tell you that for a long time." The satisfaction of months shines in the dull pig's eyes as he spits out, "Dirty hound." Himmelstas lets fly too. "What's that, you muckrake, you dirty peat stealer? Stand up there. Bring your heels together when your superior officer speaks to you." Tjaden waves him off. "You run and jump it yourself, Himmelstas." Himmelstas is a raging book of army regulations. The Kaiser couldn't be more insulted. "Tjaden, I command you, as your superior officer, stand up." "Anything else you'd like?" asked Tjaden. "Will you obey my order or not?" Tjaden replies without knowing it in the well-known classical phrase. At the same time, he ventilates his backside. "I'll have you court-martialed," storms Himmelstas. We watch him disappear in the direction of the orderly room. Hai and Tjaden burst into a regular peat digger's bellow. Hai laughs so much that he dislocates his jaw and suddenly stands there helpless with his mouth wide open. Albert has to put it back again by giving it a blow with his fist. Cat is troubled. If he reports you, it'll be pretty serious. "Do you think he will?" asks Tjaden. "Sure to," I say. "At least you'll get away with 5 days close arrest," says Cat. That doesn't worry Tjaden. 5 days clink or 5 days rest? "And if they send you to the fortress," urges the thoroughgoing Muller. "Well, for the time being, the war will be over so far as I'm concerned." Tjaden is a cheerful soul. There aren't any worries for him. He goes off with Hai and Lear so they won't find him in the first flush of excitement. Muller hasn't finished yet. He tackles Krop again. "Albert, if you were really at home now, what would you do?" Krop is contented now and more accommodating. "How many of us were there in the class exactly?" We counted up. Out of 20, 7 are dead, 4 are wounded, 1 in a madhouse. That makes 12. Three of them are lieutenants," says Muller. "Do you think they would still let Kantorek sit on them?" We guess not. We wouldn't let ourselves be sat on for that matter. "What do you mean by the threefold theme in William Tell?" says Krop reminiscently and roars with laughter. "What was the purpose of the poetic league of Göttingen?" asked Muller suddenly and earnestly. "How many children has Charles the Bald?" I interrupted gently. "You'll never make anything in your life, Bomber," croaks Muller. "And when was the Battle of Zana?" Krop wants to know. "You lack the studious mind, Krop. Three minus, I say. What offices did Lycurgus consider the most important for the state? Asked Muller, pretending to take off his pince nez. Does it go, we Germans fear God and none else in the whole world, or we, the Germans, fear God, I submit? How many inhabitants has Melbourne? Asked Muller. How do you expect to succeed in life if you don't know that? I ask Albert hotly, which he caps, what is meant by cohesion? We remember mighty little of all that rubbish. Anyway, it has never been the slightest use to us. At school, nobody ever taught us how to light a cigarette in a storm of rain, nor how a fire could be made with wet wood, nor that it's best to stick a bayonet in the belly because there it doesn't get jammed as it does in the ribs. Muller says thoughtfully, what's the use? We'll have to go back and sit on the forms again. I consider that out of the question. We might take a special exam. That needs preparation. And if you do get through, what then? A student's life isn't any better. You have no money. You have to work like the devil. It's a bit better, but it's rot all the same. Everything they teach you. Crop supports me. How can a man take all that stuff seriously when he's once been out here? Still, you must have an occupation of some sort, insists Muller, as though he were Cantorac himself. Albert cleans his nails with a knife. We are surprised at this delicacy. It is merely pensiveness. He puts the knife away and continues. That's just it. Cat and Dietering and Heide will go back to their jobs because they have them already. Himmelslaas too, but we never had any. How will we ever get used to one after this? Here, he makes a gesture towards the front. What we'll want is a private income, and then we'll be able to live by ourselves in a wood, I say, but at once feel ashamed of this absurd idea. But what will really happen when we go back, wonders Muller. Even he is troubled. Kropp gives a shrug. I don't know. Let's get back first, and then we'll find out. We're all utterly at a loss. What could we do? I ask. I don't want to do anything, replies Kropp wearily. You'll be dead one day, and so what does it matter? I don't think we'll ever go back. When I think about it, Albert, I say after a while, rolling over on my back, when I hear the word peacetime, it goes to my head. And if it really came, I think I would do some unimaginable thing, something, that's worth having lain here in the muck for. But I can't even imagine anything. All I do know is that this business about professions and studies and salaries and so on, it makes me sick. It isn't always, and always was, disgusting. I don't see it anything at all, Albert. All at once, everything seems to me confused and hopeless. Kropp feels it too. It'll go pretty hard with us all. But nobody at home seems to worry much about it. 2 years of shells and bombs, a man won't peel off that easily. A man won't peel that off as easy as a sock. We agree that it's the same for everyone, not only for us here, but everywhere, for everyone who is of our age, to some more and to others less. It is the common fate of our generation. Albert expresses this. The war has ruined us for everything. He is right. We are not youth any longer. We don't want to take the world by storm. We are fleeting. We fly from ourselves, from our life. We were 18 and had begun to love life and the world. And we had to shoot it to pieces. The first bomb, the first explosion burst in our hearts. We were cut off from activity, from striving, from progress. We believe in such things no longer. We believe in the war.